on. Let me do my quick intro, and then we're gonna get right into it.
Okay.
Okay, welcome everybody to another edition of Meet the Founders, presented by Live Nation. I'm your host, Brandon Pankey. And this month, September, we are really focusing on wellness. It's Self-Care Awareness Month. Next week is Suicide Prevention Week. So we really want to focus on what it means to really improve upon yourself, have a better sense of well-being and your wellness overall. So we are kicking off this month with the amazing Tasnim Sulaiman, excuse me. She is the founder and executive director of Black Men Heal. She is a licensed counselor, relationships, sex therapist. She is an adjunct professor. I could keep going, but she is, truly amazing. I've known her for years at this,
Yes.
probably over a decade. So I'm super excited to have her on. So Tasnim, thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. And what a full circle moment is this, though, that we like go way back. They like Brandon doing it. I'm like, I know Brandon. I'm like, Tank was like, yo, tell Brandon. I said, what's up? I'm like, how full circle is this,
Oh,
right?
how life is.
Yeah.
I'm excited. No, really. Thank you for doing this.
Me too. Thank you so much. Are you still in Philly, Brandon? Or are you out, Ella?
I'm still in Philly. Still in Philly.
Okay. Oh, so we also neighbors still, right?
Exactly. Let's get into talk, all the other stuff
Okay.
out of this. But no, let's get into it. So what is Black Men Heal, and why was it important for you to found it?
Black Men Heal is my baby. That's what it is. Black Men Heal is a nonprofit organization that I started in 2018. I started in July 2018. I started it as a solution. It's an answer to a bigger problem, right? And that problem or that question was, why aren't more Black men going to therapy? Why aren't more Black men prioritizing their mental health? And quite frankly, I got sick of the problems and talking about the problems, right?
Right.
Like if I'm not a part of the solutions, I like to feel like hope. So that's kind of how I started it, as a solution to that. So what I did was, I'm also you mentioned a licensed therapist, and I have a private practice, and I've had that for years. And I see men in my private practice, but I just did not feel like I was getting enough Black men. So I was seeing a lot of men, but I also felt like the men who I were seeing, therapy is very expensive. I don't take insurance. A lot of good therapists don't take insurance. A lot of men I was seeing could afford to pay over $100 an hour. And I just felt like, what about my cousins, my homies from around the way who really need this, who have layers and layers of trauma, who need this, but may not access it. They might not have the same access. And I just started to feel conflicted about being a part of a system that, what I feel is a broken system, that is, one in which there's these health disparities where quality healthcare, quality mental health care is only for the privileged. And that just really weighed on my soul. So I started Black Men Heal as a solution to that, as a call and an invite, or what we like to call now a labor of love, to lay out the red carpet for men of color, for Black men, to say, hey, we not only has everybody been talking about this whole mental health thing, and it's a party that you need to come to, but you're VIP. This is just for you. You're the only person invited to the party, right? We lay out the red carpet. We take away the cost, which is one of the major barriers of access. So they get 8 free sessions where we jumpstart their healing journey. We also do the match up for them. So that is very crucial, because if anybody is on here knows, even if you could afford to pay $150 for therapy, and you try to find a therapist as a person of color who looks like you know that it is a very laborious process, and it's very difficult, right? Because we're all booked solid, like booked. And so finding people that looks like you is difficult. So we do all of the work. The men who come to us, they just have to be ready. They just have to be ready to commit to themselves. And we do all of this work. We match them up with the provider of color. Not only that looks like them, but we match them up on 7 different matching variables that kind of make it like a match.com.
What are those?
We created like a system that's like a match.com to guarantee that they're going to have a very strong therapeutic relationship. And that relationship is what guarantees that these men continue on and commit to their mental health. So we do that, and we also help remove the stigma. So our men also are asked to share their experiences, because stigma exists within our community based off of secrecy and shame. So in order to have stigma, you have to have secrecy and shame. So when you have men such as our kings who come through our program and they shouting it out to people like, yo, this is my experience and this is what I got out of it.
Yeah.
They are helping to remove the secrecy by just being transparent with other men. They telling their brothers, their cousins, their homies. So they are essentially becoming mental health advocates themselves.
Wow.
We're just creating a safe space for them to come and do their healing journey if they're ready. And then they are doing the rest. They're taking it back out into their families and into their communities to share with other men. And we get a lot of referrals of men coming in from the men we service. And so that's what Black Men Heal is.
I love it. What are those variables that you spoke about that you know, kind of like the match.com? What are they?
So I'm not going to say all of them because it's such a proprietary system that's our niche right now in the free therapy movement. But I'll give a couple of them, which are very important. One is within 10 miles of radius. Because what happens is, so let's say you're like, okay, I finally found a perfect therapist, right? Like you live in Philly, right? Let's say I got a 9 to 5. I need to be able to pick up my kids by like 7. You know, I got to get home. If I got to
froze.
People be calling. I know they know I'm on the live. They know I'm on the live. Y'all about to get a taste of how often my phone goes off. But,
I put it on do not disturb because I know. Go ahead.
So we make sure then close vicinity of their therapist. So we trying to eliminate barriers of transportation. We make sure that, like, for example, we had once like a man who was like in Chester, like if people are local, who wanted to see somebody who is in Jenkintown. That's not going to work. We already know that even if they go, it's going to be a barrier, and he didn't have transportation. I'm like, that's just setting him up for failure. There's going to be a barrier. He's not going to be consistent. So location is a part of it. Another big part of it is personality. Because just because this person Black and that person Black, it doesn't mean that I'm supposed to be your therapist just because we look alike, right? Like that helps. That's going to help with the piece of hoping that somebody can culturally, you know, understand your unique cultural issues. But personality is a big part of it. So we match up people based off of, like, if I know one therapist, for example, like has a very nurturing tone, and I'm studying the men, and I know that male needs that. But some of the males need that, like the no nonsense, like tell it like it is therapist, right? And so we do all of these different parts of it to make sure that the men are matched up. And also the other very important part of the variables is, what are the men's issues versus what is the therapist's skill set? Like, I'm a relationship therapist and a sex therapist. I don't do drugs and alcohol. So if somebody comes and they have a drug and alcohol issue, I'm going to make sure like that they are specially seeing somebody who specializes within their issue. And that's the thing, that the average person who applies for therapy, they may not realize that what they're looking for. They just like, really, they're looking for somebody who can help them, but they don't know how specifically to ask for that help if they've never had that process before. So we do all of that laborious work for them. So our men, they come into their sessions and they be like, even the therapists, like, we make sure that our therapists have a good experience too. Our therapists get the perfect match, because they'll be like, yo, oh, my therapist was a veteran. I'm a veteran. Yo, my therapist love the Eagles. I love the Eagles. And I'll be like, I know. Trust me, we don't get no sleep, because we made sure that all of those issues, when you go in, all of that awkwardness when you're like, I don't feel safe, is taken away, because it feels like almost like a perfect date. Like, oh, this person just gets me. And that's what makes it, that's our secret sauce. That's our magic sauce.
Phenomenal. That's all that. So let me ask, why is there such a stigma, particularly for Black men? You know, I feel like, you know, and I'll just speak for myself personally, you know, growing up, it was kind of like, don't show emotion, you know, don't ask for help. I do a million things now and I'm still scared to ask for help. You know, in relationships, it's, you know, don't tell all of your business, keep it to yourself. If something's bothering you, just don't talk about it because you're a man. And that, you know, that shit is whack. You know what I mean? But much, then I'm seen as over emotional. You know, so why is there such a stigma, particularly for Black men, to even go to therapy, to share their feelings, to share their emotions? Because I just think it's unfair, and it leads to actually more mental issues that you may or may not know that you have.
I totally agree with you. I think it's unfair, and you know, my goal is to try to do away with that. But I think the stigma, it goes back in history for so much. Like, not only is there a masculinity stigma, because I think men in general are just reared differently. when it comes to just growing up as kids. If you have a 2-3-year-old girl playing and a 2-3-year-old boy playing, and let's say they both out playing at the playground, and the little girl falls and goes to her parents and she wants to be comforted and nurtured, she got a little boo-boo, she's going to get comforted and nurtured. By the age of 1, 2, and 3, we're already sending different messaging scripts to our babies. Like, I mean, those are 2 babies, right? We're already sending different messages to a 2-year-old boy. A lot of people are already, oh, don't cry, or like, oh, you fine. Like, so that messaging, the gender script, right?
Yeah.
This masculinity script I think that is very harmful to men. But I also think it comes from, like, okay, so now we're going into history, specifically with people of color and Black people. You can go all the way back to the days of slavery. And I think that the way in which men, like, think about the way in which men were stripped from their families, right? Watch their wives being raped from, and some of their children didn't have their last name. So when you think of the ways in which men have been emasculated just in history and oppressed, not just men, but just people of color specifically, I think that's a layer of it with the stigma. And also the other part of it is Black people, we have been through a lot of trauma, us ourselves directly, and also it's in our ancestors. So it's intergenerational. Our ancestors have gone through a lot of trauma for us to even be here. And when it comes down to this issue of the stigma, you also have to think of, okay, the resilience. We, a lot of times, because we are a resilient people, because we have survived in a world that we should not have survived in, right? Because all the odds was against us, but we've still survived. So now it's like this badge of honor to be like, oh, well, we strong. And don't get me wrong, because we are, right? But I think that we sometimes misconstrue this idea of Black strength with Black pain, like, or Black or co-intersected Black pain with Black strength. And they're not the same, because to be honest, we are resilient people, but, we are still in pain. And it's like this idea that, like, if we talk about our pain or our struggles, that we're not strong, that it takes it away from that, which isn't true, or to be vulnerable about that. But we are survivors, right? So I think that's where the whole idea of stigma comes from. Not to mention, like the cultural, the religious, our parents and our grandparents, the whole idea of, what happens in the family stays in the family. Right? Like, all of this pain and all of this trauma and all of these struggles, like, they happen within the family. But this idea that, like, we don't tell people our business. Right? Like, that's this idea amongst us, like, more like in this newer generation from our parents that it comes from. It's like, we go, like, the secrecy, the elephants in the rooms, nobody talks about the issues or the problems. So all of these factors, there's layers and layers of it that I think contribute to this idea of stigma. And all of it is unhealthy. All of it is toxic because it is contributing to us not healing and us not getting the treatment that we need.
Yeah. You spoke about Black pain. Have you seen issues or some of the clients, some of their issues been exacerbated since the start of COVID, since all of this civil unrest? Have you seen just a change or an increase of number of men to come in? Like, how has your practice been affected? And how do you think in general we have been affected? And I'm going to speak specifically about Black men, how we have been affected with everything that's been going on since March.
That's a great question. And yes, the answer is 1,000%. Not only in my practice have I seen a huge influx of people who want to come into therapy specifically because of issues such as anxiety and depression and just PTSD from everything that's going on in the racial riots and everything, the George Floyd murders. But in Blackman Hill, I mean, we just had a huge increase of men as well. Like, within the past 8 weeks, I think we have 200 men. I actually, my boy Reg is right down there, right now, going through some of the men on the list. Fellas, if you're watching this, we got you. But there's 192 men on our list in the past 8 weeks who want therapy. That's just in the past 8 weeks. Like, we probably have a total of over 800 men. So just think of that in perspective of this. We're in a cohort 5 right now. And this is the which will be ending like in September. and this is the Charlemagne the God sponsored cohort. So shout out to Charlemagne the God.
Wow.
These men. We had 30 slots. We went through over hundreds of applications for 30 slots. So that kind of gives you an idea and perspective of the needs and comparable to our ability or capacity or resources, right? So it's a very vast stretch versus need versus what we could actually do, the resources. So we always need more resources. And the men, this cohort specifically that applied for this cohort in June, like, so they were applying after COVID. They, on their applications, they specifically say things such as, my father just died of COVID-19. Like, I mean, we're seeing like the exact things that are going on right now. Or I lost my job. Or, you know, ever since the George Floyd murders, I can't, you know, I have been having difficulty sleeping. The men don't name the diagnosis. They name the symptoms. So I've been having difficulty sleeping, or, you know, I'm having a lot of fear of police. So they're naming the symptoms of everything they're experiencing right now. So COVID-19, like 2020 has been 2020. We all know, like, this has been the worst, but it's so much. I mean, even as recent as just recently when Chad Boseman, my partner's on there. It was one of the men that applied for our program had been beaten by the cops at one of the protests. Wow. So, I mean, so just imagine, and mind you, I haven't been okay myself. Like the people, like us, our team, we haven't been okay as far as what we're all experiencing as people of color. I'm like, no, we're not okay. We're here. We're showing up and we're doing the best that we can, but are we okay mentally, emotionally, physically, psychologically? No, not really, right? Like, it's still like trying to wrap your head around it. So there's so much going on right now. The need is just, it's huge. And so we have so many people supporting our program right now because they are understanding the importance of it and the importance of men receiving therapy. And so, yeah, so as much as we can do things like this and put the word out, the more support we can get, for sure.
Yeah, I want to lean into, you know, some of our audience here with Live Nation Urban, right? You know, every week on Meet the Founders, we have had music executives come in and talk about the work that they do in their careers, right? I found myself, you know, along with these executives, have been working harder, you know, since quarantine has started, just to try to figure things out and, you know, keep pushing. But what I've also seen is, and something we don't talk about, is how it affected our personal relationships. You know, I tell you that, you know, a relationship that I was in ended for a lot of reasons that could deal with work, could deal with insecurities, a bunch of things that I think was wrapped around quarantine. Have you seen an uptick in personal relationships? Have you seen an uptick where Black men are like, look, you know, the women that I've been dealing with, or the partner that I've been dealing with, you know, I can't do it because, you know, I'm going through so much personally?
That's an amazing question. Actually, I will say that the men that apply for Black Men Hills, many of those men are in relationship, and a lot of them actually specifically say, I'm just trying to be a better partner. I'm just trying to be a better husband. I want to be a better father, right? A lot of them are actually in relationship. We get some men who are single who talk about being isolated and feeling lonely and want to be in relationships. But, you know, that's something good to see, that there's a lot of men, because you know what I love about Black Men Hill? Well, there's so much. I mean, we'd be here all day if I told you everything I love about Black Men Hill. But one of the things that I love about Black Men Hill is that we get contrary to what the stereotype tells you it is. And truth be told, I love it. I love when my mind is blown, because I'd be like, oh, I thought it was like this, right? Like, I thought Black men don't want therapy. They said Black men don't go to therapy. So why are we flooded with all these Black men that want to come to therapy, right? I love getting that type of stuff. Or, you know, I thought Black men don't want to be fathers. They trying to be out here. Like, why are we getting so many men who are saying, I want to learn how to be a better father? My father was never there, and I don't really know how to do this. You know, my wife is about to leave. I just want to save my marriage. You know, we're getting so much contrary. But as far as relationship, I think relationship issues, I have two theories on this. And so I'm judging this by my practice and in Black Men Hill. If you were in relation, so in my private practice, my couples who are in relationship are closer during quarantine if there's no domestic violence, and I don't see clients who have active domestic violence. So I'm giving one specific lens because I know it's a lot of people out there who may not be in safe relationships, but they're actually closer if they don't have children. I don't need to put any salt on anybody with the kids. I'm a parent myself, but they, you know, all you add, because if they've been quarantined together, they've been kind of forced to be closer in a lot of ways, right? But a lot of my clients who, like, let's say one is quarantined and one is still working out, or, you know, out somewhere, or they both quarantine and they still trying to manage the kids and this homeschool thing. The more and more layers or variables that you put in that are stressful, the more that the couples are struggling. But like my couples who are like kind of like quarantined with their partners, surprisingly, and there's no kids and there's not all these other stressful variables, they're doing okay. So I find it interesting. Oh, Zakia just told me to mention that we get a lot of men that want to do the work. Oh yeah, I forgot about that from last forward. They want to do the work before they're in relationships. So ladies, if you're watching, come to our fundraisers, because these brothers come to the fundraisers suited and they talk about how they applied for Blackman Hill. They be 30, they be educated, they be like good brothers, and they be like, yeah, I'm not married, I'm not in a relationship, I don't have children, I wanted to do this work beforehand. And we be like, wow, can you imagine to be in a relationship with somebody who's like, I did this work before I even met you? How amazing would that be, right? So that's the type of men we get.
I might be married if I did the work before I got into a relationship. You never know.
You never know.
Bro. So let me ask: is Black Men Heal a national organization?
It will be. Not quite yet. We working on it. We getting there, right? So we started. This is such a conflicting question because I know Zakia's on here watching because this is our baby. It's blowing up, right? We started it here locally. No money. And when I say no money, I mean no money. We have donated without any money, no money and no resources, just a bunch of people who loved this mission and believed in it and came together, and including the providers. We were able to donate 569 sessions to men, right? Then we started getting funding just this year in 2020. All of last year, Zakia always laughs. Should I talk about the numbers, Zach? She said, I know that's right. Like last year, we had barely raised anything. Like this year so far, like we have donated, I mean, we have raised almost $300,000 just from 2020. And that's just private funds, like private people who believe in this mission, right? It all kind of started off with, we got invited to go on the Breakfast Club in February.
Okay.
So we first got our first Philadelphia Inquirer article, and we were like, great, the city's going to know who we are. They're going to know we out here, we doing this work. And then that was like the same day that they came out, Charlamagne called me and was like, come to New York. I love this program. How can we get it in New York? And our goal has always been to be in every single community. And right now we have over 20,000 followers on our page. So I apologize to the followers who send messages. We just cannot manage all of the messages, but all day long we get messages or emails. My cousin needs this, my brother needs this, my husband needs this, or directly from the men themselves. I'm in Arizona, I'm here, right, located here. Do you have the service here? And it's very disheartening to be like, not quite yet, King, but we working on it. We're working on expanding. But right now we exist in PA, New Jersey, Delaware, and New York City. So we're tri-state. But by 2021, we hope to expand to a few more cities. And so our goal and our plan of expansion, a lot of it depends upon funding, resources, right? The only thing that it takes for Black Men Hill to exist in whatever city you're watching, if I didn't name your city, is funding, resources. So we already have therapists in other cities who are like, I'm here. We got a list of therapists who are like, I'm located in this city. So when we're ready to expand there, we can already call certain people. So we're building a directory nationally. So our goal has been and will always be to be national and internet. We get men from Kenya, Africa, who'll be like, do you have the services here? We'd be like, not yet, King, but trust me, we're working on it. So, yeah.
As how do we find out more about Black Men Heal? How do we donate to Black Men Heal? And how do I or other Black men, find a way to become, a new client for Black Men Heal?
That's a great question. Okay, so right now is the time. If you are in one of those states that I've named,
Mm-hmm.
New Jersey, New York, Delaware, New York City. Shout out to New York City. Y'all been representing. The providers there have been representing. The clients there have really been flattening it. But if you're in one of those states, you can go to our website. You can go to blackmanhill.org, and you can apply. You just go to client and apply. So right now we're going to be uploading a new cohort in October. So now is the time. Even though you heard me just mention, I got Reg sitting downstairs in my house right now going through 192 people on that list. For how many slots we're going to have, I don't know yet. But I think it's going to be bigger than 30 men this time. But so now is the time to apply. And if you can't get into that, you can, every single week we host a group, a mental health resource group. And this is for men all over the country called King's Corner. And it's so dope. And it's amazing. And every week there's a different topic applicable to men's mental health. And we give psychoeducation and skills and transferable skills. And it has become a huge brotherhood. Every Sunday at 7 o'clock, you can go to our website and register. It's called King's Corner. It's been a very, very powerful experience to have King's Corner. And there's men all over the country in that. And it's free. Everything that Black Men Hill ever offers to our kings will always be free. That's Sundays at 7 p.m. That's a great way for men right now to immediately get into a resource. Today, Friday, we got something coming on Sunday. Register right now. You could donate to us. Donations definitely help. That is how we get to your city quicker, is just the funding. That's really all it takes, is to be able to pay these therapists and recruit therapists to service the kings. You can donate on our website through PayPal, or you can go to our Cash App, which is, I'm going to put it in here. Wait, Zakia or Reg, y'all on here? Can one of y'all type the Cash App up here? Because I'm busy running my mouth. It's BMH Blackman Hill, I think. But all this information is on our website. If you go to our website, everything is
blackmanhill.org. Blackmanhill.org.
Right.
As this has been one of my favorite, one of the most needed conversations that we've ever had on Live Nation Urban. So I thank you for being a part of this.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I appreciate this. Tell Sean G I said what's up. This whole full circle moment is amazing. And Brandon, I'm so happy that I was able to connect with you to do this. Oh, and Tank is on our board of directors. So that's the other full circle part of it. Like, you know, Tank definitely been looking out, and he's a huge help to us. And we appreciate y'all. We appreciate everybody who has supported us. I see some of our providers on here. Hey, Dr. Tyra, what's up, Dr. Tyra? It wouldn't be possible to do what we are doing if it wasn't for all of the people who believed in us and who show up to service these men. And so I just want to say thank you to everybody. Thank you so much.
Thank you for being here. This has been another edition of Live Nation Urban Presents Meet the Founders. I'm your host, Brandon Pankey, and I've been here with the amazing founder and executive director of Black Men Heal, Tasnim Sulaiman. Thank you, Taz.
Appreciate it. Bye.
All right,